Hello, everyone! After an extremely long period of waiting, we finally got episode 74, and long story short, it was just insane. And I already suspected something mind-blowing based on two scenes that was spoiled to us by Boom earlier, but the full episode contained even more information, insane reveals, endless details, and some huge plot twists that actually partly confirmed my initial theories. Who is going to become this new mysterious Titan we're supposed to have already seen before? What is the true motif of TV men this time? And why do they need G-Man alive? And how G-Man and Astrotoilets are actually connected with each other? If you want to know the answers to all these questions, then get your tea and snacks ready and prepare to watch this video to the end, because I'll tell you by the end of it what is actually up with G-Man and why he is essential for the Alliance. And let's go. Okay, so the episode starts with the image of switching to another camera screen, which is something that we have already seen in episode 71 featuring several POVs. And when I analyzed two scenes from this episode leaked to us by Boom, I already knew that there's going to be several POVs in this gigantic episode, and that it's going to be divided into parts, and each of them will feature their own specific POV. And in the first frame, we see a new type of a cameraman, actually, who is dressed in a white shirt like a scientist or medic. But to my understanding, he's playing a different role in this episode. He's also got a special device on his chest that looks like a part of his specialized field kit, and two camera-like parts on his shoulders whose goal may be capturing everything that is going on around their owner. I think that it may be the new type of scientists cameramen that are working in the fields and are assisting other soldiers of the Alliance with the usage of their technologies. Plus, I think that with their assistance on the battlefield, they would help elite agents to record their special missions and later analyze their steps and moves in order to make the next operation smoother. And another thing that I noticed about this field scientist and the device on his chest was that we already saw the similar-looking piece on the old version of Titan Cameraman, who was initially developed and upgraded in the laboratory of Cameramen. So it all makes sense. Then the field scientist turns the camera around and we can see the same elite TV man whom Boom called Daddy, but honestly I find this name way too silly. So let me call him Elite TV Man instead, okay? And besides him, we can also see some flying cameras above the field scientist's head. And this is another reference to Boom's earlier episodes, because we could also see them in episode 23 where they were helping to repair Titan Cameraman. And next to Elite TV Man, we can see this speaker man dressed in a dark suit with two glowing red knives in his hands. And behind his back, I can notice a handle of some other weapon, possibly. Maybe it's something like a claw hammer. It really makes me glad that Boom pays more attention to Speakerman's race this time and develops them even more, so that they finally have more potential as a race of the Alliance. And what's also interesting to me is that it's a completely new Speakerman, and not the same guy we saw in episode 73 who was landing with Camerawoman. And honestly, I don't know where this guy went to. And the same thing can be said about the rest of Cameramen here. Although I expected to see the same group of cameramen from the secret scene to the full episode 73, it must be another group because all the cameramen are different now. For example, these two cameramen with the flamethrowers in front of Elite TV Man are wearing blue ties, which don't match the guys from the secret scene. Okay, and then the field scientist puts the camera on Elite TV Man's chest to observe everything that he will capture from the distance and to analyze the details of the last Skibidi base surroundings better. And I believe he used the same camera that he had on his own chest, because it wouldn't be possible to cover TV Man's screen with it. That's a pretty smart idea. And then we started watching everything from the Elite TV Man's POV who says, "Let's go," and moves further. Let's go. And then we can see a pretty unique thing. We can see how it feels like to get teleported as a TV man. We hear the sound of teleportation, and then it breaks into several lagging sounds, and the camera also starts lagging. That's a really cool detail from Boom, which proves once again that the series keeps evolving from the technical point of view and its quality is going higher. And it also seems to me that he may be invisible in such a state, and that's why he caught these Skibidi off guard. So when Elite TV Man finds these two Skibidi before they're even about to do anything, he hypnotizes them with the special ability of a blue glow by TV Men. But as far as I know, he can even make them think certain thoughts. And that's why he tells them the word protects. And what really made me laugh in this scene is the way Elite TV Man grabbed one of the hypnotized toilets by his tank or something and literally took an Uber ride with him till the door. Yeah, this guy is really sick. But there was also another detail that bothered me about him though. How was he even able to hypnotize these two Skibidi because they wore protective glasses? So if we'll go back to the moment when he faced these guys, we'll see that he used some kind of powerful sound wave to break their glasses and literally gaslight them into doing whatever he orders them to do. And if we'll also take a look at him once again before he was given the camera, then we'll see that he has two speakers from the sides of his head, and I've never seen anything like this on TV men before. And I think I also saw two retractable guns as well. And I mean, I remember seeing a similar looking gun on a TV man from episode 49, for example, but I've definitely never seen them using speakers to harm their opponents before using hypnosis. So I can say that TV men are also evolving scarily fast, and you should also remember these words because they will be important later. So I believe that's how the Skibidi's glasses got broken, and he was able to manipulate them easily. Then he teleports again, and we see another ability that he has, and it surprised me even more. It looks like he literally sucked the little Skibidi scientist's lasers with his right hand into the teleportation fog, and then he redirected it to the Skibidi himself with his left hand. Well, at least that's how it looked to me. Because I really doubt that it was this Skibidi's fault for not being able to hit TV Man's body. I mean, he couldn't be that stupid, right? In any case, that looked pretty awesome. And then Elite TV Man says, "Give me your head!" Which is, suspiciously sounding to say the least, so no doubt the poor freak got just terrified. He screams like crazy, but of course it doesn't stop TV Man from fulfilling his initial words into reality, so he literally performs a trick in front of our eyes and removes this Skibidi's head in his unique manner so that there is no blood after this procedure. You'd make an amazing surgeon, bro. Maybe you should think about choosing another carrier path after this operation. And then he uses his head as a tool to open the next door. And oh man, was it a reference to Skibidi Genesis by chasing Skylar or something? Because I remembered an almost identical scene from a second episode of his multiverse that was published almost 3 weeks ago. And that's just something to think about, you know, because Boom gets definitely inspired by some multiverses while making his series here and there. But it's always subtle though. And I'll also remember about it a little bit later, but let's go back to the episode now. So, the Skibidi scientist apparently yelled so hard that the reinforcements got to the place really quick, but it didn't bother Elite TV Man at all, though. He just casually opens the door and lets in two of Skibidi hypnotized by him, who were happy to destroy somebody of their own kind with the smile on their faces. And while they were doing that, Elite TV Man just kept moving to another door as he wasn't interested in staying there any longer. He got the head, and that's the most wonderful thing if you know what I mean, of course. So he opens a second door as well, so now his whole team is also free to come in, and it seems to me that this gray-suited speaker man was definitely happy about that. So after opening the door, TV Man rushes back, but the way is already cleaned out, it looks to me. And it's also interesting how fast he moves while accelerating. I guess he has some jetpack-like thing or some device in his body that makes him move that fast without teleporting. So he opens another door without any issues, and this door was isolating a room instead of a corridor. And guess what? Who was found in there? Yep, that's actually Simp Cameraman, who was promised to appear in this episode for such a long time already. And it seems like him and some other agents of the Alliance was picked up from the battlefields by Skibidi Toilets and delivered in this base to then strip them off some parts, which then could be reused by Skibidi while making their own mutants or cyborgs. Check out the head camera of this big cameraman, for example, with no body to be found nearby. I'm pretty sure that his body was needed to use for some Skibidi cyborg to create, while the rest of these guys remained useless to Skibidi Army, and that's why they're still here. And I also noticed how all the cameras and speakers on these poor guys were broken with one specific goal. Skibidi didn't want them to be tracked from the base of speakermen or cameramen, and that's why they cut off the main ways for communication. And by the way, check out this guy lying next to the red speaker man. And what the heck is this? Is this some leg bone that tries to jump out of his body? Looks more like leg boner to me, actually. And these guys were also not repaired in any way, so that's why they look just as poorly as when they were on the battlefield. Check out Simp Cameraman, for example. He looks just as heartbreaking as in episode 57. And there is also a tablet lying next to him, but I think it was destroyed by Skibidi as well, so it must be of no use. Or maybe they could be even interrogated by Skibidi, who would hurt them even more. I can't dismiss such a possibility as well, but at least he's still alive, and that's the most important thing after all. And by the way, that's the first Speakerman scientist presented in this scene as well, and I hope to see more of them in the future episodes when we'll get shown Speakerman's lab. Elite TV Man tells them all to get out, and then he pats the head of the last remaining Skibidi that was hypnotized by him, and ironically says to him, "Well done, lil bro."
Well done, lil bro.
And this scene is actually cruel as hell, and let me explain why. So when Elite TV Man addresses this Skibidi, he's still in the state of hypnosis, and that's why he was smiling to his master so sweetly. So TV Man lies the hand on his head on purpose. He wants to remove hypnosis effect from him before destroying him so that this Skibidi realized everything that he's done to his comrades. And that's exactly what happens. So we can see how eyes of this Skibidi widen of horror. And he also screams when he understood what just happened, and only after this misery Elite TV Man finally finishes him off. This dude is really cruel, man. And I have a general feeling that TV men in general is the most merciless race in the Alliance, while Speakermen are the most unserious and funny one. But trust me, we're going to talk about TV men much more soon, so keep them in mind. And then we see something even more horrifying. When TV Man opens another door, we see a bunch of infected humans who are about to get turned into Skibidi Toilets. Or aren't they? I think that everything is actually much more complicated. Firstly, I saw plenty of human skeletons in this room, which means that this is some kind of experimental room that existed for a really long time, and that not humans were able to survive through the process of becoming Skibidi. But on the other hand, I don't see any toilet tanks anywhere, including the people themselves. So it may possibly mean that people are able to turn into Skibidi Toilets only when they got infected sitting on the toilet or near it. At least that's what I think. So secondly, all the humans that can be seen in this shot are alive, but definitely infected, and they don't have a clear mind anymore, as their brains got obviously corrupted by the constant playing of Skibidi Skibidi song, and TV Man later destroys the player to finally cut off this annoying sound. And I'm happy to see that my theory of that song being infectious turned out to be true. And it looks like it was playing here for a really long time, so that all the people have almost turned out in some zombie-like creatures. And it was especially creepy to see this guy who was doing, what exactly? Exercising his butt? I bet he wants to be the next Gym Bro Skibidi. So to me, these guys look like a new generation of Skibidi that were trained to exist without toilets. Maybe Skibidi wanted to have some quick zombie-like creatures in their army, or maybe they are candidates to later become mutants or cyborgs, or there is even a crazier possibility. Doesn't these two guys look similar to you? I think this guy in scientific clothes looks like a scientist from the picture with Boom, and this deformed dude nearby almost looks like a guy shaking hands with Boom. Or maybe their clothes are just similar, it's hard to tell at this point. And they all don't mean much to Elite TV Man anyways, because after a quick observation he just says, their brains are rotten, and orders cameramen with flamethrowers to burn everything.
Burn everyone. Their brains are rotten.
But before that, I've noticed a slight detail that is actually hugely important. Check out the inners of this opened container that was placed behind this infected man's back. Isn't it a TV screen in there? And there's also another human skeleton next to it. So does it mean that there is a connection between Skibidi and TV men? So I'll tell you everything I think about later in this analysis, so keep watching not to miss the most important part. So while cameramen are executing this orders, we see how Simp Cameraman got carried into the container with survivors. And oh man, he still has a TV woman's picture. And speaking of her, there she is in the flesh. And although I'm obviously glad to see her, I still can't understand what is she doing here exactly. Wasn't she supposed to be outside? And just as in episode 57, she doesn't even pay any attention to the poor boy. And moreover, she neglects him twice. Firstly, when she tries to show her a picture that he had, and secondly, when he was reaching his hand towards her. And then the container's doors got closed. I really sympathize with this guy, everyone. And I also found it funny that container got teleported, but TV woman remained in her place. Was she daydreaming too hard and forgot to follow her team or something? And now we're moving on to some spicy stuff in this episode, because then we see a giant parchment hanging above this table. And this paper definitely depicts different parts of G-Man's body. I saw his core, his unique toilet tank, and the reactive boosters that he's got from containers that assisted him in the end of episode 73. But in this picture, there were also parts that we didn't see on G-Man yet, and its robotic arms and legs. And oh man, does it mean that G-Man is on his way of becoming this new Titan Boom told us about? Okay, And then we see a reference to Dom Studios' multiverse because there is a pencil cap, a tiny drill, and a clock being on the table. But it seems like Elite TV Man is not really excited by it, so he just brushes it all off. Hey dude, that wasn't really polite of you. But he doesn't create an impression of a soft guy in general, does he? But at least that gives us a better opportunity to look at another paper lying on the table. And in there, we can see G-Man himself, and oh man, this picture goes just crazy. So it looks like Skibidi wanted to make him a giant cyborg to oppose the Titans of the Alliance without any issues. But what surprised me the most was G-Man's head, and especially the red color of his eyes and the construction around his sculpt. So first thing first, it seems to me that it was G-Man's eyes that have been gradually revealed on the pitch-black leak from the Boom's shop, while I was actually expecting to see some Astro toilet on it. But it seems like I wasn't far from the truth after all, because G-Man definitely has some astro-freaking technology installed in him on this picture. Just look at this device on his head. It really looks like some modernized Astro helmet, which probably allows G-Man to control his new limbs or use Astro-inspired abilities. But why would Astro Technologies be on Skibidi base? Considering that Astrotoilets and Skibidi Army are arch rivals now? Or is it possible that Skibidi stole these technologies from Astrotoilets somehow? And I actually have so much thoughts about G-Man that I want to tell you everything to know later in this video. Because for now, we've got to keep analyzing what's happening in this episode. And guess what happens next? Instead of behaving shocked or baffled, Elite TV Man just puts this image closer to himself, turns to cameramen waiting for his orders and tells them, "Mind your own business." And then he quickly teleports away straight to TV Men's base, and the camera attached to his chest is still working. And the first thing that I've noticed there was this giant TV screen literally flying in the air, although I don't really know what is the purpose of it. Maybe some TV version of the Big Brother was watching what was going on in the base. And there are also 3 shady-looking TV men in this giant room, and the one TV man who is dressed as a scientist must be well known to us. This is the same guy who we saw in episode 66. And then he also appeared in one of the latest secret scenes where he ordered to get the second claw of the Astro toilet to their base. So it seems to me that right now they're already in the middle of some research or even experiment involving this Astro hand, because if you'll look closer at whatever these guys are doing, then you'll clearly see it. So when the TV Man scientist turns around, Elite TV Man gives him the image with G-Man found in the last Skibidi laboratory, and then something really interesting and unsettling happens. TV Man scientist takes a longer look at this image, but before he was about to answer anything to him, his head shifts to the side a little, and it became obvious to me that he's finally noticed the camera attached to Elite TV Man's chest. And it also seems like the dude simply forgot about it, and all he was thinking about in the moment was to rush to his comrade's laboratory and show everything to their main scientist. So the main scientist changes his mood from calm to angry and says to Elite TV Man, "Turn that camera off!"
Turn off this fucking camera.
And oh boy, the tone of his voice didn't sound pleasant at all. And of course, Elite TV Man turns it off immediately, and all of this leaves me one giant question. Why the heck would he do that? Is there something that TV men are actually hiding from cameramen or from the Alliance in general? And could it be connected to either G-Man or Astro Toilets or even both? Because it's time to actually remember a TV screen lying in the Skibidi base, and that G-Man is supposed to become a cyborg with the usage of Astro technologies. And let's not forget about these books with TV logos on them that Lucky Cameraman brushed off so easily. I believe that it all may be connected. And surprisingly enough, my everlasting theory about how TV men can actually turn out to be either traitors or double agents can still have a possibility to turn out to be true in the end. Because otherwise, why would TV Man Scientist order to turn the camera off? And why did Elite TV Man go straight into TV Men's base instead of the Alliance's headquarters or something? It all sounds extremely fishy to me. And then we're getting switched to the scene that was spoiled to us by Boom yesterday. But this time I can see some minor changes in it and more details. Firstly, the POV in this scene is the same guy from episode 56, because the number on his tablet is exactly the same. And it's pretty interesting because I was almost sure that this guy was supposed to get destructed by the infected Titan Speakerman in the end of that episode. But I guess it didn't happen, and he still somehow managed to survive. Okay, so in the actual episode 74, we don't hear "Everybody Want to Roll the Word" playing in the background anymore, which made the scene a little bit more serious. And also now we can see a clearer perspective on what Titan TV Man is talking about here. So when he says, "I found them," and connecting,
Connecting. I found them.
he shows everyone the footage from another POV. And this gets us to the first spoiled scene where we saw the G-Man squad assembling. And I already analyzed this scene in detail in my previous video while I was waiting for episode 74 to get released, so I don't want to repeat myself in here. But there was one change that I've noticed though, and it's a small Skibidi Kleiner that is now sitting on G-Man's toilet cistern. And I think that it's original Kleiner as well, and the bigger version of him we saw in episode 68 was just another puppet that Skibidi scientist used so often back in the days. So now the Skibidi squad is definitely all set, and the purpose of these guys is to create some hindrances for the Alliance so that G-Man had more time to not only escape, but also repair and upgrade himself. And I also think that G-Man had his reasons to take Skibidi Kleiner with him. Because now when Skibidi Scientist is gone, Kleiner seems to be the best scientist that remained in Skibidi Army. And right now, G-Man needs help from one ASAP. And after the jump scare ending that we already saw from this leaked scene, we're getting back to Titan TV Man who says, "They are weakened. Perfect time for attack."
They're weakened.
And also check out how this time he says, "Not you, crippled bros," instead of "not for you." Crippled bros as it initially was in the leaked scene.
Not for you, crippled bros.
And the rest of his phrases remained the same, which were, "You two are going home," and "This war ends today." And what I've also noticed in this scene is this speaker man who was trying to become a bland copy of my beloved speaker woman and imitate her walk. But of course he fails miserably in it. And I also chuckled a bit while looking at this speaker man who was literally staying in T-pose near this giant speaker. He looked a little bit silly in there. And the scene with grieving Titan speaker man, who was later cheered up by his mates so that he did an iconic dance for the first time in the series, still managed to put a smile on my face, although I've already seen it. And if you watched my previous video, then you know that I considered a possibility that Titan TV Man might behave more as a traitor, because without context, his behavior was really erratic and weird. But now we know exactly what he was referring to, although it still puzzles me, why would he be back so soon instead of chasing G-Man and his team? Maybe he received some special order from TV Men's lab. And by the way, speaking of TV Men's orders, when Titan TV Man is ready to teleport, he is suddenly getting stopped by the main TV scientist who tells him, "No, bring their leader to our base alive."
Bring their leader to our base.
And oh man, Titan TV Man is not pleased with this order at all, and his face literally explodes with anger as he answers, "Are you insane?" To which TV scientist says, "We need to understand the whole picture before it's too late."
We need to understand the full picture before it's too late.
And oh man, it definitely sounds fishy as hell. And I bet that Titan TV Man would have to say something about it, but unfortunately no one has time for that, because a new urgent message comes to everyone's tablets. And it's a video footage from another cameraman's recording somewhere in the area, and it shows a huge swarming attack from Astrotoilets. And by the way, the vibe of this whole scene reminded me a lot of battles from Star Wars movies. The complete chaos is happening in there, and the footage doesn't last really long because the POV gets destroyed almost immediately by the new terrifying type of Skibidi Toilet. So Boom kept his promise about how he will start showing much more new Astrotoilets soon, and now we observe the whole freaking massive attack from them. And after everyone watched the footage, they didn't even have time to take a breath, because after that the UFO toilet shows up almost immediately. And I'm pretty sure that it's the same Astro that once collaborated with Skibidi Toilets and helped hurting the Alliance from episodes 53 to 55. And he's a really coy character that managed to survive for so long due to his skills, who was responsible for destroying plenty of valuable machines and soldiers from the Alliance. And what he's doing right now is that he's simply playing with the whole Alliance. He playfully dodges a few attacks from Titan Cameraman and blocks the effect of Titan TV Man's red glow with his protective glasses. And by the way, in the moment when he was dodging the attacks, we can see that the rest of Astrotoilet's squad was already there behind his back, and that they were watching the whole show from afar. And that makes the whole situation pretty much hopeless for the Alliance's agents in this scene, and it becomes obvious that this freaky UFO toilet was just playing with them until they would be hit by the rest of his squad. So after the UFO toilet is done playing around, he releases an eerie laugh and flies away. And then we're getting to the most tragic part of this episode. Dozens of new, deadly Astro toilets appear right in front of the Titans. And check out how they're doing it just one by one to make their appearance even more epic and unsettling. And of course, the biggest boy appears at the very end, and I don't even know how exactly to call this thing. It seems like his role in Astrotoilet's hierarchy was majorly inspired by the Death Star ship from Star Wars movie series. I mean, just look at him. He's just absolutely massive, and although he doesn't seem that huge at first due to the angle, I think that in reality, he's extremely gigantic, and that's why it took such a long time for him to appear. But this massive thing wasn't the one to give the first blow, so instead it was done by this Astro toilet with 4 lasers on his body, and every single one of them was surely hard-hitting. And then we see just an awful scene. As Titan Cameraman was the first on the line, unfortunately, he must have understood it very clearly that he was at risk of being the first to get destroyed in any case of scenario. Because considering the absence of one of his legs, it's obvious that he wouldn't be able to even escape from such a huge amount of Astro toilets. So it would not be cowardly as hell, but also pointless. So instead, he chooses to go away like a hero he is, although I must say I still think that this decision was pretty reckless. But what else did he get to do, though? So he raises up his head camera, turns to the row of Astro toilets, and jumps right at the one who produced such a hard blow. And before that, he shows one last shaky thumbs up to the POV from episode 56, which just shattered my poor old heart. He grabs him like a pro wrestler, and then tries to hit as many of other Astro toilets as possible, which results in one huge mess, and then he disappears somewhere in the distance. And to that, both Titan TV Man and Titan Speaker Man react the same way TV Woman and Camera Woman reacted seeing Plungerman passing away. Although it wasn't a proper hug, though, because Titan Speakerman was rushing to help his friend and Titan TV Man had to stop him from doing so with the desperate words, "I can't lose you both." But let's be honest, it looked more like a hug of grief in these circumstances. And then we see nothing but a complete chaos. And the whole scene looks like a shot from the movie called Apocalypse Now, where multiple horrors of war were shown to the viewer. Everything is covered in dust and fog. But despite this, the POV and another cameraman who's lost his arm are trying to run to some cover, but unfortunately a chaotic laser shot from some desperate Astro toilet prevented them both from reaching a good ending. Although the POV doesn't pass away in a second, and he still remains alive for a couple of moments, and in his last seconds of life he sees the UFP toilet again. He was observing the whole scenery with the satisfying look on his face, and on this terrible note today's episode has ended. And oh my freaking god, guys, what can I even say here? First thing first, this episode gave me so much material lore-wise to think about, that I was actually deciding whether should I include all my theories and predictions in today's analysis and make the longest video ever on this channel, or should I make separate full videos with all the details about what I found. So I will definitely make a video about G-Man and why he's actually so important for the Alliance, as well as make another video on TV Men and everything that was wrong with them in today's episode. And yeah, guys, I know that I denounced my famous TV men are traitors theory some time ago, but blast me if it's not the perfect time to go back to it. And that was all for today. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, hit the like button below and also be sure to write a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube and Discord channels if you don't want to miss all the new interesting videos that I'm about to make after the analysis of episode 74. And that was me, ISOTOILET. See ya!